Okay, and welcome back. And hopefully this will be the last video for this series. I'm going to try to squeeze it in, right? This is for anyone who's taking the financial accounting and, of course, the additional instructions for the graded project 061579. All right, so let me get down to slide. Oh, there we go. All right, so we left off here where we had created the post-closing trial balance. And from the post-closing trial balance, that allows us to create the balance sheet. So if you look at page 41, it tells you, number 14 to create the balance sheet. And of course, I have a blank form, and again, formatting is important. And again, when you look at the balance sheet from the previous accounting period, which was on page like 30 or something like that, you're going to use the exact same format. Okay, so the heading should be the same. However, the date is going to be different because you're making a balance sheet at the end of January and not at the end of December. But everything in this area here, all of the accounts and the way they're formatted with indentations and bold and headings and things like that, should be the same. And of course, you're going to now, for those general ledger accounts, you're going to use the balances for whatever accounts you have from the post-closing trial balance that you created. Okay. And of course, you do the math in order to fill out anything in order, like, get your total assets. You have to add up all of your assets. But the point being here is that you're using the balances from your post-closing trial balance in order to create your balance sheet. Okay. Now, remember that, and the thought just popped into my mind. On your trial balances, your debits always equal your credits. Okay. And if you've done everything correctly and you've made your closing entries correctly, then your accounting equation should be in balance. Your assets should equal your liabilities plus owner's equity. All right. Remember, at the beginning of the accounting period, the accounting equation was in balance. But as soon as you made a journal entry that didn't affect one of those three accounts, it throws it out. That's because we used a revenue or an expense account. And so now we have to bring that back into balance, and that's what our closing entries were for, is to bring our accounting equation back into balance. Okay. And if your assets don't equal your liabilities plus owner's equity, it's the same thing as debits don't equal credits. Those are two inviolate fundamentals of accounting. If your debits don't equal your credits, you have to go back and find out where you made the mistake and correct it. If your assets don't equal your liabilities plus your owner's equity, there is no excuse for it. You have to go back and find it. Okay? Find out where that mistake is. And here's the thing. If you fudge it, right, you know, it's going to show. Anybody who uh, knows financial accounting and understands what's going on, they're going to be able to find that mistake. Okay. Look at years ago when Enron went under because they were cooking their books. Their debits didn't equal their credits and their accounting equation didn't balance, and somebody found it. And it's the same here. So if your assets don't equal your liabilities plus your owner's equity, you have to go back and find where that mistake was made. Okay. But if your debits equal your credits, really your accounting equation should be in balance. Okay. So we move on to the next statement. Okay, so on page 43, it tells us to, and that should have been number 15 right there. All right, get that like that. I'm sorry about that. So on page 43, it says create the statement of retained earnings. And I hope you've noticed that we're still using the same exact form, whether it was for the income statement, the balance sheet, or the statement of retained earnings, or even for our trial balances. Okay. Um, the statement of retained earnings, on whatever page it was, 31, 32 from the previous accounting period, This statement is really relatively easy because all you're doing is you're going to format it correctly, okay? And the numbers here and here, all right, you're going to find on your income statement or your balance sheet, okay? You're not going to be looking at your post-closing trial balance or your adjusted trial balance. The numbers for the statement of retained earnings come from the other financial statements, right? And the statement of retained earnings, just as a little bit of extra theory, when you have your balance sheet and you have your assets is equal to your liabilities plus equity, okay, your statement of retained earnings relates to your equity. It can get very, very complicated in this section, okay, when you have stock and owners and bonds and treasury stock and there's all kinds of stuff. So it's very similar to like accounts receivable and accounts payable, in that accounts receivable and accounts payable, you have uh, a subsidiary ledger, and in the subsidiary ledger is all of the detail, okay? And the total balance of all of that detail is what is shown in that one specific account for accounts receivable or accounts payable. Well, the statement of retained earnings is very similar in that when you get a big company, there's too much information in your equity section, so they simplify it, and all of the detail is shown here on the statement of retained earnings. So that's why you're having to create one, and so that you know where some of this information comes from. Okay. All right. So next step on page 45. Okay. We're into the home stretch. It says here, having created the balance sheet, income statement, statement of retained earnings, and the post-closing trial balance, type them up in a Word document. Now, I realize that you've been doing this all by hand, okay, on pencil and paper, which is what you should have been doing. You really shouldn't have been using an Excel spreadsheet. Some people like using it, but, I mean, that's fine, okay? However, the reason why I'm saying type them up in a Microsoft Word document, you can do this in an Excel spreadsheet, but you're going to, unless you're an expert user at Microsoft Excel and you're able to create the formatting correctly in an Excel spreadsheet, it's just easier to type it up in a Word document. Okay, to be messing around with the size of the cells and trying to put underlines and double underlines in an Excel spreadsheet, it's way too much trouble. It's not worth the effort. There's not enough information here to warrant doing it in an Excel spreadsheet. Now, don't get me wrong. When I was a bookkeeper and I worked for a company, there was enough information where I did do it in an Excel spreadsheet. And I set it up once, and I was able to use that year after year after year. But you're only doing this project once, and the initial setup of the financial statements in the Word document is not worth the trouble. I mean, you can handwrite it and then just type it in a Word document. So, do that. Okay, type them up in a Word document, and they should be all in one file. Okay, in other words, if you use a Word document, there should be 4 pages in there. Okay, and on each page you're going to have 1 page for the balance sheet, 1 page for the income statement, 1 page for the statement of retained earnings, and 1 page for the post-closing trial balance. If you send separate files, 1 file for the balance sheet, 1 file for the income statement, and so on and so forth, the project is going to be returned to you. All right, and that's due to tracking purposes. Okay, we can't track, 4 files. If you call up, trying, the numbering of them and this and that is just too much. All right, so, and it makes no sense that I mean, you have 1 Word document, you might as well put all 4 of them in that Word document. If you happen to be using an Excel spreadsheet, yeah, put them on separate tabs. Okay. But submit only 1 file, whether it is a Word document or an Excel spreadsheet. Only submit one file with everything in it. Okay, so if you're using the Word document, insert tables if you feel you need them. Okay, inserting the tables is a lot easier to manage than messing around with cells in an Excel spreadsheet. But basically all you're doing is typing up the financial statements. So use the space bar and use tabbing in order to get the financial statements to set up correctly. Okay, that's what I do. All right. Now remember, formatting is important. These are professional papers, and you will lose points for formatting. But the important thing here is that these are professional papers. They're not just something that you scribble on a piece of scrap paper just because you need the information. These statements go out to bankers and investors and whatever. And if they're not looking professional, you're not going to get the loans and things like that you need for your business. Okay, another note here. Scanned images. Inserted into a Word document or scanning the statements as a PDF file will result in the project being returned back to you as not graded. And the reason for that is because we cannot mark up electronically scanned images or PDF files. There is no functionality in that software for us to be able to write on your image or your PDF. So if you submit a Word document where you don't want to type it up and all you're going to do is scan it as a JPEG or some a file format and insert it in the document, insert it into the Word document, well, then the project is going to be returned to you and you're going to have to type it up in the Word document anyway. So don't scan anything, and certainly don't scan it as a PDF because we can't mark up read-only files in PDF format. Right? It'll just get returned and you'll have to type it up in the Word document again anyway. All right, so no scanned images. All right, and lastly, only the financial statements are required. Any other work that you do, you keep. We don't need that. All we need are those 4 financial statements. So once you have your Word document created, all right, and you're ready to submit it, you click on the Take Exam button on your My Courses page, for that particular exam for the 061 579, and upload the graded project just like it was you're uploading an attachment to an email. Okay. And with that said, that is the end of these additional instructions for the graded project. Hopefully it is helpful to you. And if you have any questions, you need to telephone and speak with an instructor. I mean, you were to read the chapters, do the homework problems, and if you did those, you should be able to do the project. Now, when you're doing the project, me personally, I find the project to be very, very clear as to what I need to do, but we decided to, I'm doing accounting for quite some time, so, it's second nature to me. But for those who are new to it, we've created these videos to try to move along in the process and see what you need to do from step to step to step to give you some idea as to how the process flows. But if you still don't understand, then you'll definitely have to, telephone and speak with an instructor. Okay? Good luck to you on the project and best of luck. All right?